Hello everybody and welcome back to the vlogs. Happy Monday. Well, it was a happy Monday until I came down to site this morning, and on one of our projects someone seems to have broken in over the weekend. They've wrenched the back doors open somehow. We've got security measures in place, padlocks, fencing, signage. Our security measures are pretty tight, but if someone's going to break in, they're going to break in. So it's targeted, obviously. They've wrenched the back doors open, gone inside, and they've stolen the armoured cable, some of the mains cable as well. They're actually lucky it was isolated, because if it wasn't isolated, they could have been in some serious trouble. But anyway, this is now an issue because there's a small delay. There's obviously a cost implication that's going to come to this as well. These people just don't care. They don't think about it from our perspective. So what we're now going to have to do is go down the insurance process with the client, with the building managers, and with us as well. It's just aggro you don't really need when you're already on a tight schedule on a project, which this one is. Anyway, it is what it is. We move on. On a brighter note, on a more positive note, we are first fix complete on our new office project. So all M&E's done, petitions are closed up, and tape and jointing is starting later this week. So that's positive. We're on schedule as well. I have been pushing for this to be on schedule. So I've been deterring people of treating this job like a hospital job, because as I said in a previous video, it's very easy to treat a job like this, because it's for us, as a hospital job, but I'm adamant it won't be. So yeah, well on schedule with that. And for the rest of the week, I've actually got a couple of really positive Teams calls tomorrow actually. So one is with another client who came through the podcast. We've done a very small, with a consultancy firm actually, and they put our names forward for a small M&E project, and we carried out that job successfully, and they've now given us another project to quote and tender for. So I've got a Teams call for that tomorrow. I love it when, two things here actually. Number one, I love it when I get a client who's come on the podcast, because it gives me like a sense of satisfaction of what I'm doing is actually working. And number two, I love it when a client comes back after another project that we've done for them. It just means that they're happy with the service, because ultimately, it's the first project we've done for them as well, so it's first impression counts. So that's really positive. I've also got a branding call, because I'm going to update my branding for Square Foot Stories as well. I just think the banners, the artwork needs to be updated really. I did that right at the very start about 2 years ago, so it is about time we had a refresh. So I'll be on those two tomorrow, and then the rest of the week is just bouncing from site to site. I've got loads of site meetings this week. We've got a lot going on. We've had a couple of projects that have started in the last couple of weeks, so I've got a load of site meetings planned, subcontractor catch-ups with our designer as well for the projects. So yeah, all super positive. So I actually wanted to expand on a LinkedIn post that I put out this week, and it was centered around the fact that we generally have a skills shortage in the construction industry. Young people coming into the industry and wanting to work in our industry. But I think the post basically was aiming at the fact that, have we created a culture in which young people don't want to work in? And what I mean by the culture in which they don't want to work in is long hours, heavy accountability and responsibility pushed down the supply chain, people suffering burnout. That's frequent. The amount of people I've spoken to who are either suffering burnout or have suffered burnout. So you look at a 16-year-old or 17, 18, 19, 20, young person, late teenagers, why would they want to come in the industry if that's what they're hearing about? Because it's not the most glamorous industry. Well, it's not perceived as the most glamorous industry. But that script needs to be flipped, because it actually is when you look at some of the buildings that we've built. But anyway, going back to the culture thing, it is a problem. We do put a lot of stress onto people who are working on projects. We put a lot of accountability on them, and they've signed up to that, so they do know, well, they should know what they're getting themselves into. And also, is there actual clear progression? I know in some of the bigger companies there is some progression, and to be honest with you, you can go from apprentice to directorship within a bigger company. There is a bit of progression there, but the smaller to medium-sized companies, are they just taking people on? Typical progression is you're an apprentice, you're a carpentry apprentice, you're an electrician, you're a plumber, and then you make your way up into maybe like a junior project management role, or a site manager, and then project manager, and then you might make your way up into like a directorship level. But in the smaller and medium-sized companies, like, are we treating people as disposable, both on and off-site? Like, do we give them enough opportunity to grow in the companies? And if we don't, is that a reason why there is a skill shortage? Because there actually is. Like, when I look at a lot of the labour force that we use, the age bracket really is between, I'd say, 40 to 60. There is a couple of people between 20 and 30, but not a lot. I actually wanted to read a comment in the comment section, which I actually thought was quite valuable. There's a lot of truth in this. People don't leave because they can't handle the work. They leave because the conditions make it hard to build a life around it, which is fair enough. Like, work-life balance for people in our industry can be horrendous. If the industry wants to keep good people, it has to look at how it treats them on a day-to-day basis, not just how many it can hire. The company's getting it right, approving it is possible. I like the positive spin at the end there, but I do just want to jump back onto something I said earlier, that it is perceived as a dirty industry, which physically, obviously getting your hands dirty, it is dirty. But if you look at the things that we build and the things that we create, like look at some of the best architecture in the world. It really is. Like, that's through construction. I recorded a podcast with Paul Hemming, who was adamant we need to change the perception around construction that it's dirty. He was basically saying that, when you go into a car garage that's building a Bentley or a Rolls Royce or Range Rover or any car, to be fair, it's perceived as, you don't look at it as dirty because of the end product, as the car. It's beautiful. So why is it not done that? Why is that opinion not the same in construction? I'm not sure. Hello everybody and welcome back. Sunny, beautiful day. So I got out of a site meeting at the projects I was talking about last week where we were ahead of schedule. And I also mentioned last week about how fit out is so fluid. This project this week has been unbelievably fluid. Like, I'm talking probably about 7-8 major changes happened as we're going. Just because, when you strip out and you start revealing things have to change. So this week's been a tough week in terms of trying to keep up with the changes, trying to maintain the schedule, trying to manage the client's expectations as well. Because, as changes happen, variations come in, there's adds and bits that needs to happen. Clients need to be kept up to date whilst not delaying the program because there's a critical date. So yeah, that was a tough one. But anyway, for the rest of the day, I will be updating my money.com. So we use money.com for project management. So we can, it's full transparency for the team. So everybody knows where everyone's at. Everybody knows exactly the workload everyone's got. And also, if anyone needs any help, then they can assign people to give them a hand. So it's really, really important. We use it so Wednesdays we do a projects and sales meeting for 2-3 hours in the mornings between 8 and 10 or 8 and 11. And the whole team sit down and we all run through each individual monday.com and then have a look from an overview to see what work's coming in, what projects are falling behind, what projects are ahead, is there any help different project managers need, is there any help the sales team need, the business development side of things. So it's actually really, really important, and it's also transformed the transparency that we have within the business with the different teams. So heavily recommend something like that if you aren't using it. It's really, really beneficial for us. But yeah, anyway, that is week over, Friday out. It's been a tough week, to be honest with you, with some projects, but it's also been very beneficial at the same time because those tough weeks or the tough times you have on projects, you always learn something for the next one. I always find that. So they're almost stored in the memory bank for the next project, just in case you come up against something similar.
Just so that we can allocate the time in the best way.
Right.
And I think it also gets us thinking about actually how much time it's worth putting onto the podcast, therefore to get one of these touch base sessions, block it out, actually really sit and think, what have we achieved? What direction are we going in now? And I'm hoping that we'll find that we're actually further forward with some stuff. I mean, if that we're still going to be looking at the same list that you sent in 2 months' time, and I think we're just going to be think we're going to be steps ahead
Well, especially if you look at what you've achieved in the first month.
already.
And that's month 1 to 3, what
Yeah.
we've written on the list.
Exactly.
And you've done it in month 1, the majority of that.
Yeah. So and more.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the vlogs. So it is Friday, week 2 of this vlog, and Friday, so I'm going to use this as a roundup again. Yeah, that weird noise is the AC because it's so hot. Typical UK complain when it's hot and complain when it's too cold, but I'm pretty much sweating because it's so hot. Anyway, we've had a few ups and downs over the last couple of weeks, to be fair. And I'll start it with our new office move, which I sat here in front of camera, I think a week or 2 ago, and said that I'm going to head up the project to make sure that we don't slip on the schedule so we can get it done. Because usually the only way it does slip is paying clients come first. And we've had a couple of jobs come in that we've had to be very reactive with start dates. So the only project where I've been able to relinquish labour and resources on is our office move. So here I am saying that we have now slipped behind programme because like I said, paying clients come first, and ultimately, we've got to give them the service that they require and they demand. And also, if they aren't a paying client, then how are we going to be able to afford to fit out our new office? So number 1. Anyway, another down, I suppose, of the week is, so I sat here again, I think a week or 2 ago, and told you about a project that got broken into. So we actually installed some 24/7 monitored security cameras on the job, and it's been broken into again. And last time it was just some damage to external doors, and they actually ended up stealing, I think, mains cable going to a backup generator. So it wasn't the end of the world. Annoying. But anyway, this time they broke into a different set of external doors, and the first cupboard they went into, unfortunately, was the electrician's store cupboard, I suppose. He had all of his material and all his tools there, which got stolen ultimately. Like, people breaking into places in general, let alone building sites, if they're going to get in, they're going to get in. So anyway, we've had to now look into actual security staff monitoring it overnight. So obviously we're on site in the day, so it doesn't get broken into then, but we're looking at different types of security to monitor it overnight, because obviously it's a targeted site. But not only is it unfortunate for the electrician, obviously, who's lost his tools, and the material has been stolen, so it needs to be replaced. It's also, in terms from like a program perspective, it's delayed a little bit because the material that was going to be used was to be used the next day. And we've had to procure it again, so there's another couple of 3 days lead time on that material. So we've had to renegotiate the schedule to try and keep it on track. But on a more positive note, myself and Lucy have actually, well, I say myself and Lucy, it's more Lucy who's done it, I won't take any credit, but we've actually booked up the pipeline for the podcast for the next 3 months, and then trying to further that and book up for the rest of the year. Just trying to get the the mundane tasks of the podcast out the way early in one bulk go, so get it all booked in. We're also recording in bulk slots as well, so we're trying to record 2 or 3 in one go in a day, which is always better anyway from a time perspective. And also the new studio will be ready in a month or 2's time, depending how many times the program gets delayed and how much more work comes in that we have to prioritize. But anyway, once the studio's ready, we can then look at really like bulk recording the episodes. So I think we're booked up to maybe like July, August, and then we're going to look at booking it into throughout the year. And then it just gives us some momentum, because ultimately the goal for the podcast is to go to weekly episodes. We're bi-weekly at the moment, so ultimately the goal is to go to weekly episodes, so this is going to help indefinitely to be able to do that. And then just a general comment on other projects that we've got going on. They're all running smoothly at the moment, I suppose, all by schedule. Got a couple of larger ones that are taking us through to the end of the year. And we've got a lot of tenders that have gone out as well, predominantly for educational work and a lot of CapEx work. Anyway, that's me out. Enjoy the bank holiday weekend, and I'll see you on the next one.